From Guitar Business Radio, this is GBR Focus, the podcast about companies, products, services, and plenty of details. But sorry, no idle chatter. And as we move into uncharted waters in the business of guitar, keep your chin up and your nose to the grindstone. Simultaneously, of course. I'm Jeffrey D. Brown, and I'm here for the duration. So let's get to it. Welcome to this episode of GBR Focus, brought to you by Guitar Business Radio and Ciari Guitars. And I want to remind all of you that you can subscribe to GBR Focus on your favorite podcast platform, and you can get on our mailing list, listen to shows, and get a lot more information on each episode at gbrfocus.com. Now today, our focus is on Ciari Guitars' new premium travel guitar, the Ascender. Now this project has been in the works for about 7 years now, starting with the first patents that were acquired even before the first prototype was ever built. Now it's showtime, and on July 18th, also coinciding with Summer NAMM, the Ascender will become available for pre-sale. So with us today is the company founder, Jonathan Spangler, who also just happens to be a patent attorney. So let's get all the details as he joins us right here and right now. Hey, Jonathan, thanks so much for taking some time to join us here on GBR Focus. How are you, and welcome to the show?
I'm well, thank you, Jeff, and thank you for having me on. All is well on this end.
Well, great. You know, I'm excited about this show and talking about what you're doing with Ciari Guitar. You've got a tremendous product coming out here and being introduced at NAMM. And, you know, we're talking about NAMM quite a bit right now, and we're asking people if they're going and why, and if they're not, why not. In your case, I understand you will be there, and there's a lot going on. So I want to talk about that. But I first want to talk a little bit about the origins, a little bit about the history, and how this company developed, and this fabulous premium travel instrument called the Ascender travel guitar that you've developed, which is quite unique. I've never seen anything quite like it. But I'd like to hear a little bit about how all this got started and a little bit about your background, because I think that's quite interesting. As we've talked before, we've spent a little time in a similar industry. So tell me a little bit about the background and what you did leading up to this, and then how it got started.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you. So basically, I am in the second chapter of my professional career. Spent the first chapter, almost 20 years as a patent attorney. And so advising innovators and inventors on what to do, to protect their innovations, and even at a higher level, just guiding people on, observing how they can solve problems. And, and I kind of joke that it took me that long to take my own advice because while I was advising all these inventors on what they should be doing and observing the friction in their day and solving it for themselves and perhaps solving it for others. It was firsthand experience traveling by air with my guitar that became the bane of my travel experience. And basically I decided to, solve it for myself and hopefully solve it for others. Mm-hmm. And so that's where the Ascender came from. It's been about a 7-year journey.
Wow.
I filed a patent application in March of 2012. We had the first patent before we had the first prototype.
Wow. And that's amazing.
We're less than a month away, from our pre-sale. So these are definitely exciting times. It has been a circuitous, nonlinear development path, but that's kind of how life happens, right? And we've learned a lot in the last couple of years. We've refined a ton, and we, out of respect for the fundamental innovation and for the commitment that people are going to make to our guitar, we've had a very disciplined, deliberate development timeline, and we're now ready for prime time. So we're, proceeding to this pre-sale, what we're calling our founders build. first 100 guitars, the Fenders, are going to go on pre-sale starting July 18th.
And that's going to be that's coincidentally at the same time as NAMM. So you'll be doing it there or just all over at the same time, or what?
It definitely coincides with NAMM, but you don't have to be at NAMM in order to participate.
Sure, understood.
And frankly, it's one of these things where we've been fortunate to have compiled an interested list that is over 4,000 in strength, notwithstanding the fact that it's been just under a year since we debuted it at Summer NAMM last year.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically our interested list will have first crack at the first 100. So if anybody is interested, it's you can join that interested list at ciariguitars.com, and that's CIARI guitars.com. And so basically you can put your name in a hat for one of the first 100. Yeah. And if we don't fill out all 100 straight away, then the rest, whatever that balance is that remains unreserved, those will go for pre-sale probably end of August, September 1st, thereabouts.
Well, let's stop for a second and let's talk about the guitar because
Sure.
we've kind of glossed over it a little bit right now and understand kind of what you're doing, and we can get into a few more details after that. But tell us a little bit about the instrument itself and what's unique about it. And this is really like no other travel guitar I've really ever seen. So tell us a little bit more.
Sure. So the Ascender is the first mid-neck folding guitar. We seek to define a new strata within the travel guitar space, and that is the premium travel guitar. It not only, it folds mid-neck right at the 12th fret. It's through it's a 3-link hinge system that is part of our patent position and so forth. But
looks like it could belong on an airplane or something like that. It's pretty, it's pretty space age.
Well, and frankly, it is a function of the fact that I spent my last 20 years in the medical device space, albeit as a patent attorney. My Rolodex was all medical device. Mm-hmm. And so the engineering team that I hired to effectuate what we had contemplated, more conceptually from the patent standpoint. Basically, they're all, guys and gals that are used to doing hips and knees and things that have to last, a lifetime.
Sure, that's great.
Yeah. And so serendipitously, I think we just over-engineered it to the point where, came out of the oven better than we, frankly, probably even expected.
And it's an electric guitar. I mean, it's a solid body guitar, isn't it?
Yes, it is a solid body guitar. Although, a good portion of the body and the back has been removed in order to accommodate the mechanism.
Sure.
There are 3 things that work in combination that allow this thing to go from a normal, it's a 24 3/4 inch scale, 22 fret. We pleck the neck with Joe Glazer, who's on our advisory board. We've got Seymour Duncan 59 pickups. We have ratio locking tuners from Graphtec. And so, we want it to be a premium guitar first, a pro play gig ready guitar first, and one that folds as a secondary matter. In order to make it fold mid-neck, there are 3 things that work in combination. Number 1, you've got the hinge we've already talked about. Number 2, we have an actuator that will tension and detension the strings. And then a translating truss rod that basically will lock and unlock that hinge. And so with the throw of a lever that is hidden on the perimeter of the lower bout, you throw this lever and it will detension the strings from 118 pounds at the fully tuned state down to 3 pounds of tension. And then when it's in that detention 3-pound state, it will then unlock the hinge, and now the strings actually follow the fold because the neck folds away from the playing position, so it goes towards the back of the guitar.
Right.
Which is highly counterintuitive, and but it's advantageous insofar as it offers what we call elegant string management. You don't have strings flying all over.
That was the first thing that I noticed, and that thing that I've seen on a lot of other travel guitars is that you got a lot of loose stuff that just doesn't feel quite right to me, but this is the first time I've seen it where it's actually, fairly close to the instrument. It looks like it's fully strung. It's just wrapped around it.
Yep. The strings follow the fold, and there's about an inch and a half travel that allows that to take place. And so the tailpiece that rests within the actuator assembly, that basically is spring loaded, and so that will translate along some rods, a carriage that will enable the strings to again follow the fold during that folding state, and it does so. Again, it's very important to keep this in mind at that minimal, negligible tension. So it's only 3 pounds, so it's not going to hurt the strings. And we have these really very modest grooves that are adjacent to each of the hinge points. And so as the strings follow the fold, they nestle in these tiny little notches. And so the strings are going to stay on the neck under light tension, not get hurt. And then it goes into a backpack that literally can go under the seat in front of your, as you air travel, certainly in the overhead bin. When it's time to play again, you simply unfold the neck, straighten it out, and then you reactivate the lever that's in that lower bout, and it will quickly bring the strings back up to 118 pounds. And truly, it's within a top-off tune. It's never more than a half step out. Okay. And so that's kind of how, fundamentally it works.
And the strings maintain the quality and that sort of thing, with multiple bends, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, there can be some mild, we call warping, or a little wag, but there's no, the delineation, and the important part is there's never a kink. Kink's going to affect the resonance and the playability. Mm-hmm. Any modest modest warping, as it were, it's mild plastic deformation from a physics perspective, and it comes out 100% when you bring it back to full tension. So it doesn't impact the playability, the action, or anything of that nature.
So it really fills a need for musicians that are doing what? You've probably given a lot of thought to who this guitar would appeal to and what position it holds in the market. It's not an inexpensive instrument by any means, but tell us a little bit about who this is designed for and who will get the most use out of it. I mean, it's not going to be exact, but you have a general idea, right? For
sure. So basically, I consider myself I'm my own avatar, right? So it was me that I sought to, make this for, and people like me. And what does that mean? I worked a corporate job. I have been playing guitar for, decades. I traveled more than I liked for my work, and I wanted to have a real guitar with me, right? And so basically, business traveling, frequent traveling, guitar enthusiasts, that's kind of the major, as we expect, that's probably where the majority of our sales will come from. Again, people who travel too much and want a real guitar and something that they can play and perform with if needed. What we were super, humbled by and excited by, and it was last summer at Summer NAMM when we had our initial debut. People up the food chain, as it were, artists who were at Summer NAMM said, after having seen the guitar, played the guitar, and if anybody out there in the listening audience is coming to Summer NAMM, I think our booth is 1207. Stop by. We have multiple PlayStations, and we really seek to put these in the hands of people and let them behold for themselves. But last year, having done that, there were artists who said, holy cow, like I want one of these. I want one of these for specific use cases, right? We don't have any, visions of grandeur that we're going to cause a divorce between, whatever your favorite Tele or Les Paul or PRS is, right? You'll always have those favorite guitars. However, it's an and it's an and for, again, those specific instances where you have to travel with a guitar by air. I mean, that's the number one thing that I sought to solve for myself. It is a problem in the industry I think everybody appreciates. It will have value in other instances, dense urban living, people who have, maybe they're doing a lot of road work. It could be RVs. Heck, we tested out pretty high for the Harley Davidson community. To be honest.
Okay.
People want to put a cool guitar in their saddlebags and go to Sturgis. I don't know.
Is it the pack that it comes in? Is that actually a backpack? Can you wear that on your back? Or is it just a container that would go under the seat or in the upper cabinet?
A good question. We have a gig bag that is a quilted protective gig bag that will come with every Ascender, and then that gig bag fits perfectly within a backpack that people can buy as a separate item.
Okay,
that's what I use. We also have roller bags that are also perfectly suited to accept that gig bag. But the backpack absolutely goes on your back. It goes under the seat in front of you. In every airplane I've been in, and I fly even still too much.
Well, that gives you a sort of the maximum amount of flexibility in how you may want to configure and use it. So you're not kind of tied into, well, I got this backpack, but what I really wanted was just, a gig bag, or I'm really going to put it in a roller bag or something like that. So this way it comes in something that's protected and can be used for what it's designed for. But, if you need to carry it in a certain special way on the back of a motorcycle or water skis or something like that, then you can use the best possible device bag that you want for that purpose, sounds like.
Yeah, we're trying to put some optionality in there to suit the needs of the individual, traveler, what have you. I did want to circle back to, again, the use cases that some of these artists were talking about, because I think I got off on a bit of a tangent. Ultimately, what people told us and have been continuing to tell us is that these use cases include fly dates, radio tours, maybe as a tuck away in the tour bus, to have the wheel guitar anytime they want to, songwrite and have something at the ready for their creative outlets. But, ultimately, it's to have, and frankly, some of these artists are saying they want it as an insurance policy. Sure, they're going to go on their fly date and they'll bring their favorite Les Paul, but heaven forbid it goes under the plane, and heaven forbid it doesn't come out. They know that they have something that is, again, it's got the fundamental quality, and they have the confidence to use that to perform, to the level that they're used to and required to.
Yeah, so there's it's an electric guitar, and it's not, we've certainly seen other kinds of travel instruments that are acoustic guitars, where you can pick those up and play them without an amp or something like that. But now today there are so many sort of personal handheld amps or devices that don't require you to carry a speaker or anything like that around. So I would assume that many people would want to use something like that when they're just hanging out, I would imagine.
Yeah, indeed. I think we're all too familiar with how ubiquitous and ever present the iPhones are, and your iPads and so forth. But the good side of that is there are about 8 million apps that you can use at the ready, to open up a world of options, whether it's, from various amp sounds to educational, apps to help you further your craft while you're practicing and so forth. And yes, there are a number of these either mini amps out there.
Yep.
A lot of artists, of course, are shifting to situations where they've got maybe they have a headrush gig board, right, and they've got their some sort of gig board that they can put into their backpack, and with this, you could really just plug into the house system and off you go.
Lots of people are doing that. It's a big big part of the business now, from what I can see. Way different than when I started playing, like a bazillion years ago. Talk a little bit about, the cosmetics and that sort of thing. Is there any color combinations? Is it one color initially, or you have any variation? Any other options in terms of the equipment that goes on the instrument? Is it pretty well spec'd out in one way?
Well, for the Founders build, and of course we're just transitioning really from the prototyping stage. We're making right now 20 guitars, our first full-fledged manufacturing endeavor, 20 guitars as demos for Summer NAMM. Mm-hmm. But we're kind of going in a crawl, walk, run, and that's definitely a mantra we hold very dear here. And as it relates to that Founders build, we're going to have a limited. We'll have some options, but relatively limited. Probably two separate options when it comes to a finish for those people who want maybe a high-end quilted maple or flame or something of that caliber. Mm-hmm. There will be likely an option there that may be a slight upcharge for something of that caliber, but still around the main price point. And then one that's a standard finish, and that would be your solids, right? So you might have some delta between the standard finish and the premium finish. Mm-hmm. When it comes to pickups, there are so many. It seems like everybody has their favorite. Most people seem to respect the Seymour Duncan 59s, which is why we're kind of going with that. And I think a lot of people tend to enjoy kind of customizing on their own, right?
Well, it is a travel instrument. I mean, even though it's at the high end, I think of the term high end, you say premium, but it is a travel instrument, and it's not. It's a different kind of instrument, and it serves a different purpose. So I'm not sure that having all those options really makes too much difference in terms of the functionality. It gets more into nuance at that point, but. Just before we go, tell us a little bit more about the mechanics of how this pre-sale is going to work, so everybody knows and they can get information to follow up.
Sure. Thank you, Jeff. So the pre-sale in this whole Founders build is kicking off July 18th. We have on our interested list, we've been communicating out, pretty consistently, and there would be more and more to follow with the specifics as we lead up to July 18th. But essentially, it's this way. If you're on the interested list, you'll have the ability to reserve one of those first 100 guitars. It's a $500 commitment to reserve one of those spots on that, again, the first 100. And when we go to, if we fill up all those reservations, then essentially this will be late August, probably maybe September 1st, thereabouts. That's when we're going to have, quote unquote, really the call to arms for the actual pre-sale, meaning for those people who've paid the $500 already, they would pay an additional $1,000. That gets them halfway there, so $1,500 of a $3,000 overall premium travel guitar. And essentially, if then at that point, we're building. These are going to be delivered January of 2020. So just a few short months away, 4 months, and we've got some fairly. The biggest lead time is for the mechanics and the mechanical components, which require 5-axis CNC and this, that, and the other. If we don't fill up all 100 of those guitars or those reservations, then whatever that delta is, let's say there are 25 still available. Anybody who will open that up to the rest of the world via Facebook and social media or otherwise, and anybody who comes in at that point, they're going to be putting down 1,500. So they'll be in the same state as anybody who put the 500 down to reserve, and then the additional 1,000. Ultimately, that's half down, and then 30 days out, we'll get the other half, and you've got a guitar in your hand to start off a great 2020.
Well, it sounds like a really interesting program, and let's be honest. It's probably maybe the most expensive. I don't know if it's the most expensive travel guitar out there, but when people look at it, I think, and they see really what's involved in this instrument, you can understand why it's in that price range, and it may not be for everybody, but for those people who are looking for something that is exceptional and extraordinary and all those kinds of words in that particular genre, then this may make sense, right?
That's our thesis, and our commitment is to quality first, convenience second, and so we really do want this thing to stand on its own as a premium guitar. We make them in Nashville. We pluck them with Joe Glazer. Again, premium components with Seymour Duncans and the Graphtec ratio locking tuners. This is not a gimmick. This is not this is a guitar, and it's a great guitar, and it just happens to fold in half in a way that no one's ever done or contemplated. We've had several in the industry, basically, and these are this is a pretty fun backhanded compliment, but it basically they're distill it down to, your ignorance was your asset, because it took someone from outside the industry to do something like this, because everybody in this industry knows you don't mess with the neck, and you couldn't do it. You didn't know you couldn't, so you did, and I take that with a great amount of pride, because we tap some great engineers. They're used to fighting physics, and within the medical context, and they just applied it towards a guitar, and so we're proud of what we've done. We're proud of how we've done it in a disciplined, deliberate manner, getting a lot of feedback from artists and luthiers and guitar techs throughout the process. So. We didn't do this divorced from the craftsman and artist inputs. This has been a collaborative. Engineering meets craftsmanship, meets performers, meets guitar techs, kind of collaboration. So anyway, we're excited about Summer NAMM, and we're excited about, trying to bring about a new standard and a new strata within travel.
Yeah. Well, it sounds very exciting. Again, that for those who are going to be at Summer NAMM in Nashville, it's which booth number?
1207.
Okay, 1207. And right now they can get information and see what this instrument looks like at Ciari Guitars, and that's spelled?
It's spelled Ciari Guitars.com.
Right. We'll post the link on the show notes for the show, so that you'll be able to click right into it from that point. But we're really going to be interested to follow this project along, Jonathan, and certainly wish you the very best and appreciate you sharing all the background on the development. And of course, you and I have some commonality in that we both spent years in the medical field, myself in medical media, although I've always been in the guitar world, but I went to medical media to make money for a while. So that's a lot of people do. But now I'm doing something I'm much happier at and make a lot less money, but I'm having a lot more fun. So,
sounds familiar.
Well, listen, all the best to you, and we'll keep in touch. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks so much, Jeff. I really enjoyed it. Take care.
Great. So what did you think of the interview with Jonathan Spangler? We definitely want to hear from you. You can do that easily through the official episode page on our website at gbrfocus.com, or on Facebook and Twitter at Guitar Business, or email us directly at contact@guitarbusinessradio.com. And of course, none of that works for you. You can always just call us on our GBR hotline at 888-777-2404. You can do that right now if you like. Operators are milling around expecting a call from somebody. Let's not disappoint them. So, once again, I hope you got some value from our interview. I've actually been watching the development of the Ascender for a little while now, and for sure it's a complicated project, and Their approach, as Jonathan described, has been deliberate but measured, resisting the temptation to move too quickly and risk not getting it right. And I've seen a number of travel instruments over the years, but really nothing quite like this. Looking at the back of the guitar kind of reminds me of the B-bender apparatus, even though clearly they're distinctively different. But at first glance, you kind of get that impression. But the way it folds down seems quite unique to me. So I'm really going to be interested to see how their launch goes, and we'll keep an eye on it. So that about wraps up this episode of GBR Focus. Stay tuned and stay in touch at gbrfocus.com. And don't forget to keep an eye on guitarbusinessradio.com, where we bring you in-depth, long-form interviews with some of the most interesting and well-respected individuals with great stories to tell about their experience in the business of guitar. So as always, stay positive, stay focused on the destination, but remember, keep all the options open on how you're going to get there. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you again on the next episode of GBR Focus.